Nigerian democracy is hanging by a thread, and I'm going to show you how. The 2023 elections were supposed to be the beginning of something new in Nigeria. People were hopeful for a change, one that believed would transform the country and set it on the right path. But 7 months after the most anticipated elections in the country's history, and everyone is left feeling disappointed, as things are now worse than they were before the entire process began. Were the people then wrong to think the system could do any better? Well, not entirely. But if we take a step back to examine the whole process of the Nigerian election, you will see that the political class had 4 things they wanted the general public to focus on. First was the campaigns.
You proud of Nigeria?
I am going to be the stepping stone.
Please, do not listen to them.
Nigerians were glued to their TVs. Some took to the streets to join the rallies. Every politician was determined to outdo the other with their campaigns. Spread the message, they said. But hold on a second. What was the message again? Nothing. The candidates were not campaigning on any tangible thing that Nigerians could hold them by. The one that later succeeded didn't even have a manifesto. He wouldn't attend debates, refused to answer questions during interviews and media chats and other appearances, deflected questions to his aides. Rather than see these as red flags, people urged him on. They clap when he says nothing deserving of such, like, is this a circus? Because if you're not careful, all you will see sometimes with these campaigns would be a bunch of clowns out to entertain the general public. And you would be wrong. It was all calculated. These campaigns were meant to keep people talking, caught attention at all costs. That was Robert Greene's 6th law of power. And it worked, leading to the second thing the politicians wanted Nigerians to focus on: the rhetorics. The rhetorics that were being pushed during the campaigns were a further distraction to keep things under the veil. Instead of substance, they gave Nigerians noise because it entertained them.
A town hall different from Blue. Bulaba.
You would hear things like, he is too old, he cannot walk, he is sick, he is dying. Some would even go as far as speculate on the sickness just to discredit the other party. In response, you would hear, "Na statistics we good job," all to laughter and applause from the poor crowd. And then there are scandals upon scandals as politicians do opposition research on themselves, digging into each other's past to make sure they find dirty laundry for the public's pleasure. All these keep you engaged. You are unable to zoom out as you keep getting entertained by the so many scandals of these politicians. But you forget one critical thing: accountability. As you move through one scandal to another, you don't even have the time to hold them accountable for any of the scandals you just learned about. So at the end of the day, they win and you lose, because you gave them all your time and it was just for entertainment purposes. Nothing was done with all that information. All this then bind together to give us the third, which is propaganda and fake news. These were abundant during and even after the elections. Instead of taking their time to research and come up with solutions to the country's problems, politicians instead invest huge amounts of money into setting up troll farms that dish out significant amounts of fake news and propaganda in times of election. They do this using influencers. Even reputable media houses get paid to publish fake and unverified news articles that get shared thousands of times across the internet. Thanks to new technologies, we have no shortage of what is possible. And if you are gullible enough, you run with whatever you hear or read. No need to apply common sense. No need to question sources. No need to analyze anything for biases. You just read the headlines and you share. By the time you're done reading through all the fake news headlines, you no longer have the time to think for yourself. You don't even bother about what the politicians are saying anymore. The noise once again gets the better of you. And then we have the fourth, which was actually part of the game plan of a certain political party. That is voter suppression. Using their political thugs and weaponizing poverty as usual, they launched attacks on polling units, making sure people were unable to cast their votes. this being the last resort if the first three doesn't work. You hear of tribalism and all forms of bigotry. People you've dined with, clubbed with, played with in the not so distant past are now treating you with disdain because you're of a different tribe. By keeping you focused on these campaigns, rhetorics, fake news, and battling with dogs and tribal bigots, your mind becomes too occupied to think of the real battleground where they actually win elections in Nigeria. All these were important, no doubt, but getting the entire public to focus on them then allowed these politicians to divert attention away from what they were actually doing to win. These were arguably the most important factors in the just concluded election. They are who defends the ballot. Did it for once cross your mind that after votes are cast, there are people that actually look out for the security of the casted votes? Who are those people? Yes, obviously it is the security personnel deployed to monitor proceedings and ensure everything goes to plan. But do you know that these people are very important to the entire process? Hold that thought. Let's talk about the second factor here. Who counts and collates the results? There was serious drama in the collation center after the presidential election as Nigerians were questioning the results being called out by the Independent Electoral Commission, INEC. Guess what? The INEC chairman told them that the collation of results had already happened and that there was nothing he could do at that point. People had complaints that there were irregularities in the state and ward collation centers, but that didn't stop anything. So that then raises the question, who counts and collates the result of elections? Because if these people are corruptible, then the entire process can be brought to question. I'm not saying they are, so again, hold that thought. The third thing or people that politicians make sure you don't worry about are who certifies the results. In Adamawa, a northern state in Nigeria, an INEC official illegally declared a candidate the winner of the gubernatorial election. This led to serious confusion and tension before he was later arrested and the commission had to clear the air on what had happened. Is this a one-off situation? Or did some places get away with it? Again, I believe we should have the liberty of asking these questions, considering how the entire elections turned out. Mind you, I'm not calling the credibility of the commission to question. They are doing that all by themselves, by having obviously biased and compromised individuals in their service. Example, the man from Adamawa. This brings us to the final class of people that politicians don't want Nigerians to worry about during the electioneering process, and that is the judiciary. Almost all elections in Nigeria are now decided by the courts. So why go out to vote when we can have individuals in the judiciary decide that based on some technicalities, every evidence of electoral fraud or credibility issues raised should be ignored? And who they say is the winner is forced on Nigerians, not minding what the public think. You see, trust in government and its institutions is at an all-time low because of the failure of these institutions to live up to expectations. But the gullibility of Nigerians and lack of will, or should I say desire, to hold public officials to account will continue to embolden these politicians to do whatever they want. Since they know that they will get away with it, what is to stop them from doing it? A proof of what I'm saying will be in my comment section. I kid you not, for you will surely see someone somewhere struggling to pay for public transport, warning me to be careful or else they will come for me. That's the Nigeria we're talking about. You may wonder, why will someone who is clearly suffering and begging for giveaways under every celebrity's post be attacking me for speaking to the powers that be, for calling out a failed government, for challenging politicians to do better? You would think that by taking the risk to talk publicly, not minding what the reaction of these powerful people will be, will make struggling Nigerians wake up and support the message, share it, or even call out more public officials to do their work. But no, it will only invite hate from the supporters of these politicians, who, mind you, are not having it any better than other Nigerians. People actually went out to vote for the ruling party despite the failures of the Buhari's administration. And in spite of the many credibility questions hanging around the current president, you will find intelligent people who are still defending him with all their being. Some will even go as far as defending certificate forgery just to get in the good graces of a politician. The real threat to Nigerian democracy is not the wave of military coups happening in Africa right now. It is not in the supposed capture of certain institutions that were meant to be independent. One may even argue that it is not in the unprecedented corruption ravaging the country in all sectors. The real threat to Nigerian democracy is poverty and greed. While the inability of the poor masses to get their daily meal will force them to support just about anything that shouts, "Vote for me," the greed of the already well-to-do will push them to support any politician that will allow them to fulfill their selfish ambitions. And so you see tribal bigots that were supposed to be educated campaign for illiterates. You see intelligent people, well-traveled and exposed, support politicians without academic qualifications. You see well-educated people say things on national television that leaves you in shock. Like, how is it possible that someone can be this smart and intelligent, yet dumb? You wonder if these people have families, if they have loved ones listening to the things coming out of their mouths. Here's where I remind you that poverty is not a flaw. It is not a mistake. It is not a result of a poor economy or people not working hard enough. No, poverty is by design. It helps the already established elite maintain their hold over who they consider their subjects. So the next time you hear or see thugs attacking someone for speaking against certain politicians or public officials, know that it is by design. He who pays the piper dictates the tune. And as long as the crumbs keep falling from the table, the dogs will stick around. But is there hope? I tell you, hope is never a good strategy. If we keep hoping for good governance from evil, bad, and unremorseful politicians, we will keep living in our sufferings. And what is hope going to do then? We hear things like, pray for them to succeed. Well, for all the prayers you prayed during Buhari's administration, how well did that turn out? I read so many prophecies by our well-respected clergies. Most of them would have sworn in God's name that Buhari was the answer. Their prophecies kept changing with the season. They kept saying God was with Buhari, and he was God's will for Nigeria. Again, how did that turn out? I guess we are back to God's table yet again. How is it that every 4 years, we elect the worst of us to lead us, then spend the entirety of their term in office praying for basic amenities? It is a long journey ahead, and I can only wish Nigeria the very best. For as long as the people remain comfortable, the politicians will keep putting themselves first. But I assure you, when the masses realize that the power truly lies with them, the ruling class will be afraid to treat them like trash.